Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for kind of watching. So I've got you guys an update here on Hurricane Beryl. Okay, Hurricane Beryl is a Category 4 major hurricane with maximum sustained winds at around 155 miles per hour. This is an extremely dangerous storm that is currently entering the Caribbean. It did make landfall in the Lesser Antilles earlier this morning, but I'm joined here by Davis's weather and by Roman, the weather guy.
So,
Howdy.
So we're just going to be breaking down what Beryl is looking like now and what kind of threats it poses to different islands out there in the Caribbean. So just take a look here at current satellite. I mean, you can see we have some very high cloud tops. All right, let me pause this here. You can still see that we just have a very compact system. We have a very well-defined eye there. So just a very textbook-looking hurricane. Notice that the northern side of the storm is really popping off a lot of intense convection lately. So I do think that the northern side of the storm is going to be, I guess you could say, the dominant side of the storm. But if you look at these last frames here in the animation, the eye does appear to be shrinking. That could definitely be an eye replacement cycle. But we'll just have to figure this out. I do think though that this will begin to weaken slowly after we get through tonight. So as of right now, this is going to be the peak intensity of of Hurricane Beryl. But Davis, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on what we've seen with Beryl so far and what it's looking like as of right now?
I mean, the craziest thing is obviously just that first burst of rapid intensification that it had, right? So for reference, we were expecting in a 24-hour period for it to go from a tropical storm to a low-end Category 3 hurricane. It exceeded everybody's expectations, and instead of going to a low-end Category 3 hurricane, it turned into a high-end Category 4 hurricane. So while the National Hurricane Center is not forecasting right now that this turns into a Category 5 hurricane, I think it's important to note that it's still in the realm of possibilities, all right? I give it maybe a 30% chance at this point that this develops into a Category 5, but you know what? Honestly, Category 4, 155-mile-an-hour sustained winds, a 2-mile-per-hour wind difference is not going to make too much of a difference in the grand scheme of things. It's going to be almost the same level of destruction, if not the same level of destruction.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So, Roman, what do you think?
Yeah, this is just an absolute catastrophic hurricane. And the fact that this is happening in late June, early July is just unreal to me. We have a borderline Cat 5, but I don't think it's going to get there personally, but it is scratching the surface of that unreal Category 5 rating. It's still a very catastrophic hurricane still. And I do have some stuff that I need to get across here. So, let me see here. There was a death confirmed with this on the main island of Grenada when a house collapsed in St. George's. So that's what we have going on here. And also, initial reports that are saying that this hurricane has caused over $1 billion in economic losses.
Yeah, I totally believe that. But thank you for sharing that information. So, we'll take a look at another satellite loop. This is just a 3D scan. This is a long wave. Just satellite loop that we're looking at here, and you could just see, putting this storm into perspective in 3D, you could just see how high these cloud tops were, and this is right as this made landfall. You can see Hillsborough at this point, right at the scan. This was at around 11:20 a.m. I do think that's in Eastern, but Hillsborough, you guys were actually right in the eye, the center of the storm at this point. So this is when it made landfall. But I mean, just zooming out here, you can see how high these cloud tops were. So just a very impressive storm structure. I think what's funny is that as soon as this made landfall, the second it did, I feel like that's when it had its most it had its sharpest point. Like everything just seemed right with this storm. It was strengthening. It was just really strong, just really, really compact. There was nothing. There was no there was nothing to point out that was wrong about the storm. I mean, we obviously want this to be weaker because that would have be that would be a better situation for people. Just that there would be at least a little bit less of a threat to life and property. But you just couldn't point out any problem with the storm for its structure and its size, its strength. It was just a perfect hurricane, but in the bad way. But that was as soon as it made landfall, and just playing through this, you could see that it's just been really just churning through these waters, and it's been it hasn't. These islands have not slowed the storm down, and so it's just a crazy storm, and it's just like it almost seems like nothing can slow this down. Nothing in its path can slow it down. But I mean, yeah, just taking a look at what was happening as this made landfall earlier this morning. I mean, you can just see that it was just an absolutely monstrous Category 4 hurricane. So we're gonna move over here for the last part of the video just to take a look at our future cone of Beryl. You can see as of right now, it's about 155 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane. It's expected to move through the Caribbean. All right, still going to be a Category 4 hurricane by tomorrow afternoon, by 2 p.m. tomorrow. It should be at around 145 miles per hour, so there should be a little bit of a drop off there between now, which it is at around 155 miles per hour, to tomorrow afternoon, where it will be at around 145 miles per hour. Okay, this could go up. I think that this could definitely change over to 150 miles per hour. I do think that's unlikely, but it definitely is possible. We're just going to have to see what happens to Beryl overnight. We're going to see what kind of things it does, because actually last night, if you take this back, you could see the storm actually did get back down to a Category 3 hurricane, surprisingly. But right before it made landfall in the Lesser Antilles, it actually really just had another booming sequence of convection and just rapid intensification. We could see something like that tonight. It's unlikely, but I think a scenario like that is definitely possible. But this will just continue to move over towards areas like Jamaica, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, where in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, on the southern facing coastlines, we have tropical storm warnings here highlighted in this blue shade. I think that's the right move, because as of right now, you guys are not in the cone, but you're still going to get these outer bands, and you're still going to get tropical storm force conditions and winds. So very, very dangerous conditions are still likely and expected for you guys on the southern coastline of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. But you go over to Jamaica, and you see Jamaica, you guys are currently in the cone of uncertainty. I believe this is still the cone of uncertainty, but correct me if I'm wrong, you two, Davis and Roman. But we have hurricane warnings that are currently up. By Wednesday afternoon, we are expecting the storm to be at around Category 2 strength, with winds that could be up to 110 miles per hour. That's the current forecast. This could obviously change. The cone could shift farther north, but the recent trend has been farther south, so that would actually help decrease the risk for life and property for Jamaica. But we already have hurricane warnings, so the National Hurricane Center, they jumped the gun and just issued them right away, because this is just such a dangerous storm, and we have some pretty high certainty, I guess, that this storm is going to be significantly affecting Jamaica, but it will continue past Jamaica, still as a Category 1 hurricane by Thursday. This is where things could get really questionable. This could take a sharp turn north, and we could see this go up into the Gulf of Mexico. But as of right now, the current forecast, which once again it will change, has this going into the Bay of Campeche as a high-end tropical storm with winds up to 65 miles per hour by Saturday afternoon. And then as it's in the Yucatan Peninsula, it will be a tropical storm with 70 mile per hour winds. So it'll continue as a hurricane as it's overseas, but once it makes another landfall, like a secondary landfall, we're expecting the storm to get back down to tropical storm status. But once again, this cone will change. Expect changes to the forecast. Yes, you guys at Texas are at risk. All right, it's not a super high risk, but you guys definitely are at risk. Same thing for everybody along the eastern coast of Mexico. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. So Davis and Roman, any final words for this video? We'll start with Davis.
Yeah, I mean, just stay aware and be prepared. Again, we really don't know the exact intricacies of where it's going to make landfall in the United States. And again, we don't know if it's going to make a landfall in the U.S. at all, right? So everybody in the Gulf needs to be aware. Even everybody, honestly, in the central United States needs to be aware, because a lot of the models have this making it into the United States. And, even though it'll be a weaker, tropical storm, maybe even only a tropical depression once it gets further inland, it's still going to have that threat for gusty winds, and obviously it's still a thunderstorm, so lightning's very deadly in that kind of situation. But yeah, I mean, overall, just stay aware and be prepared.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's basically all I wanted to say too. Is just please keep an eye on this historic hurricane. We will be hearing more news coming out of the areas that were previously hit by this storm, and I don't think it's going to be very good. This storm is one to remember out there in Grenada. Also, just please, be prepared for making any other changes. We don't know right now if it'll rapidly intensify or rapidly decrease, but for right now, we think it's going to weaken. Hopefully, that's what's going to happen. That's what it's forecasted to do. But just know that anything can change in the forecast, and that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, well said for the two of you. But once again, please just remember that this is a historic storm. Quite literally, this is the first Category 4 storm in the month of June, and I believe this is the strongest storm that we've had on July 1st. But just a very, very strong storm that's shattering records, but very unfortunate stories are expected and have came out from the Lesser Antilles, especially near the Grenada and the St. Vincent and the Grenadines area. But once again, please stay safe, monitor the forecast, and I'll see you guys in the next video.